Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Peaceful Growth Podcast. A very special guest today, James Laws. He is CEO of Saturday Drive, which is the company behind Ninjaforms and a bunch of other WordPress plugins. Ninjaforms, in particularly, is something that if you're in a WordPress space, you must have heard it. It's one of the most popular forms plugins out there. As of today, when I was reviewing this morning, they have almost like 42 million lifetime downloads. That's massive. That's huge.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So we are going to I'm going to ask James about his story and a bunch of other insights and inspirations that we can learn from his entrepreneur story and building a WordPress business. James, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I am ecstatic to be here. I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So, James, how about we start with your business story? Like, tell us a little bit about yourself and the story of founding Ninjaforms, or maybe before that, Saturday Drive.
Well, which is funny because Saturday Drive came after Ninjaforms. So, and before there was Ninjaforms, there was a company called WP Ninjas that we had started to kind of be an umbrella for a bunch of Ninja WordPress products. I got into it. I was working and this story exists in different forms in different places, but ultimately I was working for a regional credit union. That was my job. I was basically maintaining their servers. I was their web admin. So I maintained all of their servers for all of our website properties. So I took care of a lot of that stuff, did a little bit of design work. But my CEO at the credit union was on the board of Junior Achievement of Chattanooga, and they had asked me to step in and review because they had a website agency that was working on their website, and they felt like they were getting ripped off. And so they asked me to sit in and just give my counsel, my feedback. So I sat in on the meeting, and one of the major things that I was catching in on was this cost of building forms, because they needed all kinds of forms, right? They needed forms for all kinds of different events. They had all kinds of different fields and requirements through that process. Now, I was in WordPress, but I wasn't in the WordPress ecosystem. So I didn't know about the plugin systems. I didn't know about, for instance, Gravity Forms, which was the biggest player already in existence at that point. I didn't know anything about that, but I was listening to this conversation on forums going, they're getting charged this astronomical amount for each new form that they want to build. And I'm like, but some of that stuff, once it's built, you shouldn't have to build it again if you're smart about it. And so I got it to my friend. We had a conversation around it. We told him that we thought they were getting ripped off because of that and a few other things. And my CEO after the meeting said, well, we fired the agency and I want to know if you'll build the website for them. And I took it on because you don't say no to your CEO if you can. So I was like, sure, why not? So I took on the project, and we decided we wanted to build forms in a smart way. So we tried to start building it out where it was extensible and they could actually maintain it. Because I didn't want a client. I wasn't looking to take on Junior Achievement to be like anchored to me for the rest of their lives. I just wanted to build them a good solution that they could maintain themselves. So we decided to build forms in that way. And when we got done, it was ugly because we weren't trying to build a product at that time. And so we said, like, let's just see how it goes. It worked really well. They liked it. And then we just thought, I wonder if anyone else would like this. Didn't know about the business ecosystem. So we started down this journey of trying to sell Ninjaforms, cleaned it up, polished it a little bit.
Which year was that?
That was in 2011.
2011.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so it was a long time ago. And I remember we put it out there, and there was a website back at the time that was one of the bigger WordPress news sites, WP Candy. Some of you will remember that. Some of you remember they had a magazine, a print magazine they started to make. I think they released like one issue and then it disappeared. WP Candy disappeared, but they wrote about us coming into the scene. We got a lot of negative feedback of like, why bother building a form builder? Because Gravity Forms exists. And that just kind of made us more passionate.
Like, I also had the same question too. In fact, like, around that time, 2009, 10, I knew that Gravity Form was kind of like, getting a lot of traction. And there are a bunch of other form plugins as well. So yeah, like what was your inspiration and why you decided to build another form?
Well, the funny thing is so we built this thing not knowing about Gravity Forms. Had I been, and I think, I don't know if this is helpful for anyone else in the entrepreneurial space. Had we done the research, we might have found Gravity Forms and never built Ninjaforms, because Gravity Forms probably would have accomplished most of what we needed to accomplish. It's not a bad plugin, right? It's a good plugin. So it probably would have accomplished exactly what we needed. But out of ignorance and kind of scratching our own itch, not knowing about that ecosystem, we set on this venture to build this thing and set it loose. Once we got started, everyone came to us and said, this already exists. And we're like, well, we're too far into this now. We're competing. That's just the way it's going to have to be, because we've gone down this road, and surely there's enough room for more than one form builder. And there were already more than one form builder, but they were definitely the big one. And so we just decided we were going to go against all odds and say, can we come up with our own perspective, try our own hand at how we solve these problems? So we didn't look at Gravity Forms at all when we made any of the decisions that we made. We looked at WordPress, we looked at other software solutions, and we dialed in what we thought was our take on the form space, and it ended up working out really well. For the longest time, it was us and Gravity Forms were the only contenders, until of course WP Forms comes along, and now there's three really big players in the space.
Yeah. And you said one thing which kind of also I get a lot when we built Multicollab plugin, in Multidots. Some of the people were asking me, it's like, probably Gutenberg Phase 3 or WordPress core team is going to release the collaboration feature. Not probably, but most likely it's already in the Phase 3. Like, why did you build another collaboration plugin, when WordPress is going to launch it for free? And my answer to them was very similar to what you said, that yeah, there are definitely a room for more than one solution in WordPress ecosystem, because everyone use and build on WordPress differently. Like, some of them just want it very simple, like, simple use case, and some needs like more pro level use case, and everyone has that different way they want to use and customize a solution. So, and the form builder, page builders are also a big examples there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there are so many different page builder exist, and most of them are thriving at the same time. It's not just like, of course, there will be like maybe one or two which are big, but at a given point of time, I have heard so many different page builders about, and I was like, wow, they have such a big user base, follower base, and I just heard about them or learned about them just a few months ago, even though I'm in this space for last 15 years, so I can see that there is a room for a lot of different solutions, even though they are all doing the same thing, but people have a different needs and they want it to use it for different purpose.
And I think, honestly, the community benefits with competition, right? Because competition drives us all to be a little bit better. The fact that I don't doubt whether anyone can disagree, but I think Gravity Forms is better because Ninjaforms was nipping at their heels. I believe Ninjaforms is getting better because we have WP Forms and Gravity Forms in the space that we have to survive against. And so we can't just rest and not do anything. We have to continue to innovate and think differently and push our product forward. If there's no competition, then there's one product that just owns how things are going to get done. And it's not the way everyone wants to work. And so I think there's room for the space. And I think it's actually beneficial for the entire community to have options.
Absolutely. So James, let's move on to the next question. How big is the WP Ninja product or as a business?
Yeah, so and we alluded to this, right, with Saturday Drive and Ninjaforms. So it was WP Ninjas, and then we decided just to focus on Ninjaforms. So Ninjaforms was the business, and then we started branching out and doing other acquisitions and partnerships and building new things. And so out of that, we created this kind of Saturday Drive. As a whole, Saturday Drive is comfortably in seven figures, and growing every year, which is really exciting to see, not just from Ninjaforms, but from other products. But Ninjaforms continuing to thrive and develop. Our team as a whole at Saturday Drive is around 26. Now that's a little misleading in the sense that probably the engineering, or the product software side of that is probably anywhere between 18 and 20 on it, depending on what's happening for the year and things like that. And then the coffee shop side is, somewhere around 5 to 7, depending on what's needed. But that's a retail space that needs baristas and people to ship out coffee and things like that. And then we have the software side, which is your typical engineering, marketing, support, and operations. So,
yeah. And how big is the team of Ninjaforms?
Well, that's one of the things that's kind of interesting about the way that we're structured. Ninjaforms doesn't have its own team. Saturday Drive has a team, and we manage all of our projects together. So it's very collaborative. We're constantly working on initiatives on multiple different fronts. So, and any given week, portions of the team may be working on Ninjaforms, and portions of the team may be working on other products, or marketing may be focused really heavily on one product, and engineering is focused really heavily on another product at the time. So Saturday Drive is Ninjaforms, and Ninjaforms is Saturday Drive, as well as all of the other things.
Makes sense. So if we talked about the install, so based on WordPress.org, there are, I think, lifetime installs are somewhere around, downloads are somewhere around 42 million, and active installs are, very close to 1 million. So looking at that, like, what's your customer base? Because a lot of these installs and downloads are both, free users as well as the paid users. So how many paid customers the Ninjaforms has?
Well, you're going to be sad to hear me say I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because I don't live in the day-to-day of Ninjaforms operational numbers. I have a product lead who handles all of that. And so that's not a number I have right off. I would say that we probably have a typical conversion rate to most WordPress products. I don't think we're extraordinary in that means. It's something that we're always constantly working on. And so I couldn't give you an exact number on that. I know it's healthy. We're still continuing to grow. I will say, and I don't mind talking about this, and I think a lot of WordPress products, and I don't think we talk about this enough, and so maybe this is helpful to hear. Ninjaforms has seen decline. Like, we've seen decline in our active installs. We've seen decline in our new user growth. We have a really strong retention. So once people use Ninjaforms, they stay with Ninjaforms. But getting new clients is hard because the space is more competitive, and there's there's people who are way better at marketing than we are. And so there is that tension. So we are seeing some constriction in our new user growth, while still continuing to have strong retention. So one of our big focuses this year is new user growth. How do we continue to develop new user growth, which is honestly the lifeblood, because it's great to retain, right? But if you don't get new users in the ecosystem, you can't grow. And so we're working through that process right now. But as far as actual active, customer percentage to install, I'm not entirely sure.
That's all right. So as you mentioned about the new user growth, acquiring new customer, I have one question there. But before that, I have another question, which is that when you launched Ninjaforms, one thing I have noticed that a lot of plugin developers or entrepreneurs who are into WordPress plugin business, their marketing strategies, and in the beginning, to get the first, let's say, 100 or 1,000 customers, paid customers, they're like a different approach, that different path everyone takes. Some goes all in on the content, some goes all into email marketing or the event sponsorship. So my question is, if you remember and if you can share, what was the strategy that worked to acquire the first 100 customer? Because the first 100 is where there is a lot of innovation, and also the challenges are because you don't have like that much money to kind of like spend on, so yeah, what worked to acquire the first 100 customers?
Poor business practices. So let me explain a little bit. When we started, we didn't know the WordPress ecosystem, and to be honest, we weren't extremely savvy business people. I had a little bit of, had a lot of leadership experience, but not necessarily in a business sector. And so when we came into the space, we made a lot of dumb decisions. We competed on price. We didn't back then, it was early on in the stage, subscriptions weren't the norm. And so people were buying one-offs. So I think originally we started selling Ninjaforms for $19, all in, one-time fee, never pay again. That is not, obviously you cannot sustain a business on a pricing model like that. But what happened was it got a lot of attention because, okay, let's at least look at what they're doing and see why they're doing it that way. And then we increased our price to $29. Then we switched over to the add-on model. And so we made a lot of changes over times to finally find our market fit that was actually sustainable and could work. But in the early days of that, and which is very different than today, by the way, it's a lot harder to, I believe, it's a lot harder to launch a new WordPress product today than it was in 2011. In 2011, you had a community. WordPress was a different community. And I'm not trying to dog on WordPress. I still love most of the people in the WordPress community are amazing people, and I still love them to death. But I will say there's a different energy in WordPress today than there was in 2011. In 2011, if you were a decent human being who cared about other people and were trying to do something good, people would give you attention. They would just try it out and say, hey, I don't necessarily use this, but you should definitely check it out and you should try it out. And Ninjaforms certainly benefited from that really nice community of support and collaboration. And why not just take a look? So we built relationships with people who were like us, who were kind, who were generous, who were who just wanted to be good. And that helped us grow just through word of mouth without a really strong marketing engine. Now, we did some things on accident that really worked out well. Like when we launched 3.0, we had a really good marketing campaign that worked really solid, even though we took a lot longer to launch our 3.0 than we wanted, which, by the way, is like the curse of the 3.0. Everybody takes a lot longer than they want to launch it. And so we had some good campaigns that were really helpful, but honestly, it was the community of that time made it easier for us as a product. And I hate to say that because it's like, I always talk about luck. Like sometimes you just get lucky, and we got lucky to be in the right place at the right time with the right people, and we stuck at it and benefited from it. But it took us a year and a half to find that. Like it was a year and a half of toiling. We didn't make any real money until 2013 is when we started to actually see growth. So a year and a half of just like having this product out there, making nothing, but still trying. But the community was great, so we stuck with it.
Yeah. Yeah. You brought a couple of interesting points. The first is the timing of right now, the market right now versus how it was 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. That's interesting because I also experienced the same way. So Multidots are like main company. We are into agency. So doing custom WordPress migrations is something that's like our big business. And we just launched a product business, like two different product business. The WordPress plugin product business. One was Dot Store. That was, I think, in 2016. If I remember it correctly. And you're right, like the moment and those are like very simple WooCommerce plugins, that anyone can build it. And so that actually flied, and we got a good growth around that time. And then we launched Multicollab 2 years ago in 2020. It is our second or third year. Multicollab at this moment, there is no competition, so there is only one plugin which does offer the collaborations features in WordPress. There is no competition. There is no that feature doesn't exist at all in WordPress. So so we are not even simplifying. We're basically just like launching something that doesn't exist at all. And I was hoping that this solution is people want it and we'll get a growth. It's been 2.5 years and we had a very slow growth. And when I started to talk about it in WordPress, a lot of people also shared very similar sentiments that it's timing too. Right now in the WordPress, 10 years ago, even if you write anything about your plugin or WordPress, it will just basically start flying and getting viral, in the community as well and on the Google search engines. But now it's very hard. It's very hard for the growth, so the whole growth, the phase, whatever, let's say 6 months, 1 year, 2 years to now, it becomes like a 5 years. At least takes like 4 or 5 years for a WordPress plugin business to get attention and the growth that you would be able to get it 10 years ago.
Yeah, and for those listening, don't hear us say like you can't do it. You can do it, but it is harder. You have to be creative. You have to think about how do I actually get this product in front of the right eyes at the right time. I'm a big proponent of luck, but I'm also a big proponent of the fact that you can modify luck. You can make yourself luckier by putting yourself in front of more people, getting in the right places at the right time, and being there as long as possible. I think you can still do it, but it is definitely a harder space today than it was back when we all got started. And so that's just the reality of that. And that's probably true across, it's not just WordPress. I think that's probably true in the SaaS space as well and other places, but it's challenging. And so if you want to stay doing it, you just got to figure out what's the trick today that helps you figure that out.
True. No, I think you made a good point that this is, don't think that as a discouragement into stepping into the WordPress plugin or product business, but I think also don't expect that some of those plugins who launched, let's say 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the traction and the success they got, probably the pace will be a little bit different, and you have to put a lot of efforts to. All right, so let's now talk about the pricing, because you also touched on the pricing as well, that you launched the plugin at $19 and then you increased the price to $29. And when I was looking this morning on the pricing, you have, I think, 4 or 5 different plans, starting goes all the way to $499 or $500 a year. So when it comes to pricing, that's kind of like another thing, like, WordPress plugin, a lot of people who are into WordPress space, as you mentioned, like, they have either somebody asked to build this solution, like their client or someone they were offering consulting. So that's how kind of like idea came in, or, they basically bought it or acquired it from other plugin, now is trying to sell it and grow it. But in both these cases, pricing plays a big role, because when it times to define the plugin pricing, as you mentioned, there are plugins which are all the way from free, like, it offers tons of different features, to $19, $49, $100, and all the way goes to, I have seen the plugins which are, I think, Lift LLMS is $1,200 or $12.99 or something for their highest plan. So there are like a very wide range of the pricing. So what are your thoughts or advice on the pricing now versus how you did the pricing 10 years, 12 years ago?
Well, don't do what I did 10 years ago, because I just didn't know what I was doing. Now I'm a little more strategic about how I think about pricing. Back then I was just like, well, we'll just go low and we'll see what happens. And that wasn't the right move. Because here's the thing, when you go too low, no one will take you seriously. They don't think you have a serious product or that you are a serious contender in the space. So if you got to watch that. You can't go too low. You also can't go too high unless you really do have a value proposition higher than your competitors, like where you can clearly detail why you're that, and the industry can bear it, right? You can certainly charge as much as the market will bear. But if you're going against competitors in the space who do what you do, if you don't have a value proposition that warrants that increase of that higher amount, it's gonna be a struggle. When I'm looking at pricing, I'll use Ninjaforms as an example. When we're looking at pricing, we look across our competitors, we look at our feature set, we think about where do we stand along with our competitors, and we think about what do we want, who is our customer base, and who are we trying to serve. So, it's one thing to say we want to charge as much as we possibly can charge, sure, but are the customers we're trying to reach able to bear that price? So we're looking at what does it take to run the business and stay profitable? What does the individual we're trying to sell to, what can they bear, and what is reasonable for them to run their own businesses and do what they're trying to accomplish? And what are our competitors doing in the space so that we can fall in line? So we used to be for a while one of the highest priced, and now we're not the lowest price. We're not even in the middle. We're still in the top tier, but we're not the highest priced product.
What was that highest price point, if you can share?
The highest price we ever charged, I think, was at like $5.99. I think we might have been at $6.99 at one point for that top tier. And I think WP Forms is right around there now. And so they're already kind of in that space now. I don't know how their pricing fully works. I don't have their products, and I don't go through their renewals. I know they offer kind of this faux discount that they do on a regular, kind of all the way through for 40% off or 50% off. I don't know how it renews, if it renews at full price. I don't know exactly how that all works. We did that for a while because of the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, we offered a 50% discount on the initial purchase, because we knew a lot of people were losing jobs or having to work from home and trying to start things up, but they didn't necessarily have the money to pay the full ticket price today. So like, hey, we'll give you the first year half off so you can get started. Next year it will renew at full price because we want to give you a way to get started. So we were trying to help that out. We've since rolled that back, but that was something we were trying to do in the pandemic to be helpful to people in our space who needed what we offered but couldn't afford maybe the higher ticket. So anyway, we're looking at those kind of three factors as we're figuring out our pricing. And now, I'd probably say we're somewhere in the, top 30 percentile of pricing for form builders today.
And is there any price experiment that you did, let's say increasing a price, changing a price, and any learnings from those experiments that you want to share? Because I have noticed that a lot of plugin companies, I've been listening to podcasts and blogs talking about some price experiments went really well and some did not. So I was like, all right, let's get some learnings from what worked well and what did not.
We don't experiment as much with our pricing anymore because we feel like we've got it pretty well locked in. But I can say, like, one of the things that I noticed in the journey of Ninjaforms and pricing, which was interesting to me, when we made the switch in 2013, in January of 2013, we launched Addons. We basically took the core plugin that was a premium plugin that had everything for $29, and we split out basically 5 different add-ons is I think what we launched with. So we had 5, we took out the 5 specific features, turned them into add-ons, and we sold them each at about $29. So they were individually, so to buy them all, it's 5 times the price of what the original product would have cost. And immediately our sales began to grow. Immediately we started to increase in revenue and increase in new customers, not just in revenue, but in new customers. And so there was a switch that flipped right in that moment in January of 2013 when we made the shift to do add-ons. And there's a lot of factors that we can talk about as to why that was. But there was this shift to charge a lot more than we had been charging and yet bring in a lot more customers. And so that was an interesting thing. One of the takeaways from that, right, is that we were already priced too low. Like we weren't being taken seriously by enough subset of the market because our prices were just so way too low compared to the other products in the space.
And that was around $29, right? That low price, or it was lower than that?
$29 was the low price all in, one-time purchase. And then in 2013, we switched to add-ons, and ended up being, to buy all 5 of those add-ons, which would be what was the original product, was now 5 times as expensive. And so that one switch.
Get the core plugin for $29, right? Or did you change the price for the core?
We were doing freemium at that time, so we had a free core plugin and then a premium plugin for $29. So the free plugins remained the same, but all of the pro features basically turned into 5 pro features. Basically, split it up into 5 different things. Yeah. So that one change catapulted us into growth. Like we just all of a sudden started to grow. And one factor is a higher price made us a serious competitor. Like people took us seriously because our pricing was more serious. The second thing, of course, was the add-ons. At that time, the only people doing add-ons were e-commerce solutions. So your WooCommerce, your EDD, like they had add-ons. It's actually, I was looking for a shopping cart solution for Ninjaforms because we were using PayPal that I had built to sell Ninjaforms, and I was looking for a more robust system. And my friend Pippin had EDD. It was fairly new, and I was looking at all the add-ons that they had available, and I was like, this could work for a form builder, because we get lots of people who are like, hey, can I just get this feature? So that was what triggered the decision. We're like, okay, let's just give them that feature. Let's be a la carte. Let people buy only what they want and not force everything on them at that price point. But we didn't actually change our pricing. We just sold them the single feature for the same price. That was good. People liked it. And so that's kind of what took that off. So that was one price factor. The other one I think is we tried Gravity Forms pricing, close to Gravity Forms pricing, which is a little lower than ours. And we ran that for a little while when we started our membership plans, and then we bumped it up to close to what you see today. And that was years ago that we kind of got into this kind of cycle. And that did really, we ran that for a little while. We weren't seeing the growth we wanted. We raised our prices a little bit more and then started to see those memberships start to take off and grow again. And so those are just decisions we made along the way. It's like watching our pricing, and if, you know, some of it is gut, like, hey, do we feel like we're getting the traction that we think we should get? Is it pricing? And so we experimented. I'll say the experiment that failed is during the pandemic, after the pandemic, when we had done the 50% discount, we raised our prices. So higher than what they are now, probably by another $100, $150 across the board. And what we started to feel there is we didn't necessarily stop bringing in any fewer new customers, but our retention started to go down. When those renewals started to come through, we started to lose customers, and that was an experiment that failed. We jumped the shark, if you will. We just went a little too high, and it's just more than our market. Maybe not the entire form space, perhaps, but the customers we were targeting, it was more than our market could bear. And so, in order to get our market fit, we had to bring our prices back down to normalize, and things have started to normalize, and things are doing really well now.
Okay guys, so if you're interested to check out how Multicollab works and how Multicollab can solve your problems or improve your content publishing workflow, you can go to our website and click on the Try Demo tab in the menu section. Then simply fill out your details, and there you go. Now you have access to the demo environment where you can test all the amazing features that Multicollab has to offer.
Makes sense. So a lot of questions on the pricing. So first one is on your thoughts on add-ons. So that's something that I think all the guests that I have interviewed in the past, that I think this is the first time. I know that a lot of other people have done the add-ons, but this is the first time I heard about the add-on as a pricing strategy. So my question is that you turn some of the premium features into add-ons, right? So how actually the engineering side of that works? Because when you have that feature, now you're turning into the add-on, right? So there are a bunch of different add-ons. So is there any technical engineering, like production, maintenance, support wise, any benefits or drawbacks on that?
Well, the major, I mean, one of the drawbacks is conflicts and maintaining multiple code bases and not having having code know of each other. Where it got really complicated for us is things like layout and styles, multi-part forms that actually change the builder, like the dynamics of the builder change. Well, core doesn't know about layout and styles. So when layout and styles comes in, it has to totally take over the builder and change it around and inject itself into it. So does multi-part forms. And when that is challenging. Like technically that creates more problems than we wish. And so, you know, if we were to do it over, we would build some knowledge into core on certain core components that we know are, even if they're separate add-ons, just because of the headache it is to take that process over. The benefits really are just extensibility, because you build your core in such a way that it's easy to extend, it's easy to build new features on top of it, because you have to, because all of your add-ons need to be able to hook into that and change it and modify it and do things with it. So the nice thing that did for us, gave us our next big boost. I think it was around April or May of 2013. I just sent out a tweet saying, hey, we're thinking about selling other people's add-ons. Would anybody like to build an add-on for Ninjaforms, and we'll sell it in our store, and you'll get 70% of the sale. We'll take 30% for operational costs, and you take the lion's share of 70%. So we'll try that out. And Pippin jumped on it. He'd already built a MailChimp add-on for EDD, and he's like, let me try it. So he got on a 15-minute call with my partner, Kevin. They worked through the process, and the next day he's like, here's a MailChimp add-on. And so we're like, okay. So we started out. And after that, people saw Pippin building on it. And so we got other people joining in. It's like, well, if Pippin's building for this product, well, we should look at it. So all of a sudden we started to get a third-party ecosystem selling on our website, selling their products. And that was a really cool experience. And that could not have happened if we didn't build the infrastructure for this add-on model.
Makes sense. So as of today, how many third-party add-ons are on the marketplace?
Well, so another story in the growth, right? I don't remember exactly what year it was, but we wanted to start doing memberships. And if you have add-ons that are not yours, memberships are really difficult, because how do I include, say you built an add-on for Ninjaforms and selling it on the website, how do I include that in the membership? And how do I say what your value of that membership is when we sell it and properly pay you what you're worth? And when you get into like an all-in package where every add-on is included, can't do it. And we knew we wanted an all-in package. So we finally decided that we couldn't do the marketplace anymore. It was just administratively and financially too challenging. We needed to own all of the stuff we sold and bundled in our memberships. So we went to all of the developers, all of the third-party developers, and struck deals. We either bought their add-ons from them if they were willing to sell them, helped them sell them themselves outside. That was totally fine as well. And tried to work out deals. Some of those developers, you know, our lead engineer, Stuart, built all of our CRMs. He was a third-party engineer. He's now our lead engineer, leading our engineering department. So we had some really cool relationships that were built out of that.
Nice. And one more question on right now, I'm on the Ninjaforms pricing page, and what I see is here that you have Elite plan, which is $499, and I see a bunch of like features here. So these are the add-ons, or they are still features?
Those are different add-ons. Yeah, all of our features technically are add-ons, and then the free talks about core, just like everything you can do in core, which you can do, of course, across everything.
Makes sense. So core is free, and then these are all the different plans where, let's say, on $999 they have access to all these different add-ons.
Yep.
Correct. Nice.
That's correct.
Makes sense. Got it. So yeah, so turning the features into add-on, I like that approach. I'm sure, like, you know, there will be pros and cons, and in some case it will not be applicable. But I like the concept because you're right. Like, I mean, from engineering perspective, the one thing I see is that sometimes we load a plugin with a bunch of different features, and each users or the customers, they might not be using all the features and don't need all the features. So we are burdening the plugin with like unnecessary code that they are not going to use. It's just going to lay there and maybe even create the conflict, with the just leaving. So it's kind of like also a burden, the file burden. But on the other side, it gives freedom and flexibility to people to kind of like choose, like, all right, I don't want to pay $500 or whatever the price is for the 60% of the feature that I'm not going to use. But instead, they will just select the features that they needed, and they just pay for what they use. So that kind of like makes also an economical sense. But also on the other side, I feel like from the engineering perspective, it will be a better build when people are using it. Might be a little bit efforts to maintain like multiple add-ons and what you mentioned in the beginning, but for the customer, I think it's a good choice because they are getting a lighter file, and also they're getting a price, paying the price for what they are actually using or going to use.
And I think the interesting thing for me was this decision for add-ons came not out of getting more money or changing our pricing. It came out of serving our customers. We were having customers say, can I just get this feature? And we're like, yeah, we could probably do that. Now, we did end up making more money because of it. And that's the nice thing. Sometimes when you serve your customers in the way they want to be served, you'll actually do pretty well because of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. So James, as of the recording of this podcast, we are in the beginning of 2024. So how was your last year, 2023? And if there is a big learning, maybe 2 or 3 biggest learning that you can share from 2023?
2023 was a rough year for us. Not necessarily like super financial woes, but I think organizationally, getting our execution legs underneath us. We had some hiccups and some struggle and just executing on some of the things that we wanted to do. So the last half of the year, I have spent a lot of time working on a new execution system within the organization to help us stay on the same page, keep communication going, and get much, much more work done without nearly as much stress. So honestly, my 2023 has been an execution kind of fiasco, and 2024 is looking really, really good as I've established a new system at the end of the year. We've been running it since the beginning of this year, and things are going really well. It's not perfect because it's last year it was a theoretical system I had. This year it's actually in practice, and so now we're polishing it, we're fixing it, we're making iterations on it, just like I do with products. I'm doing it with the system, but it's going really well. And so I think I would say there's a lot of things to look at in business, right? You can look at your pricing, you can look at your product, but you can also look at your team, your organization, and say, are we serving them in the best way possible? And are the practices that we have no longer functioning? So I talked about how in 2011, it was very different to launch a WordPress product than say it is today. Well, the way I ran the organization 10 years ago is not going to work running the organization that way today. It needs new systems, it needs new ideas, it needs innovation. And so I've been spending a lot of my time in the end of last year and the beginning of this year trying to innovate on the internal systems of the team so that we can work better. And I have a great team. I love everyone on my team. They're all amazing and they do such amazing work. The problems that we've struggled were not because of problems of them. It's been problems of old systems. And so we're working on that.
Makes sense. I see a lot of books in your background. So I have one question on the books that, that out of all the books that you read since you started reading books, what are the 1 or 2 books that has the significant impact in your life?
Absolutely. I'll give you 3.
Right.
I anticipated that this might be a question. So I actually pulled these books down off my shelf for you right now. So the first one is a book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Absolutely love this book. Talk about the disciplined pursuit of less, how to do the things that are essential in your life and get rid of all the other stuff. So I absolutely love this book. In support of that, I love this book by Carey Nieuwhof, At Your Best. talks about how to not only do, in the first book, you talk about how to determine what is the most essential stuff for you to do it. This book helps you to determine when are you at your best to do those things? When do you focus on the important things, and when do you do the not so important things? This book is a great book to kind
is
of
it
get
the book
mind
about
wrap
the
your mind around that.
routine and environment too, like what kind of place and timing that kind of like ideal for
Yeah, so At Your Best will talk about your environment, it'll talk about your energy levels, it'll talk about your routines throughout the day, and how do you dial those in. Really, really great book. And then my last one I'll put in my top 3 is A Minute to Think. My son always talks about he's bored, and I keep trying to teach him boredom is a gift. And as we get older, we lose the ability to be bored and spend time and thought and just let our mind wander and think. This book talks about the idea of reclaim creativity, conquer busyness, and do your best work by taking more time to just be in your thoughts, be in the silence, not always doing something, but just taking a minute to think. And so this is another great book. So those are my top 3 books for anyone. I say make that a part of your list for this year, and you'll have a fantastic year.
Thanks for saying that, James. Usually, when I ask this question to my family or friends or anyone that I meet, that I always ask for a book recommendation, and I have noticed that at least there will be one book, whatever, like 2 or 3 books they suggest, at least one book that either it's already on my reading list or I already have read in the past. These are the 3 books. All the 3 books that you mentioned, I have not read it, so I'm very excited about it to see that how
that's a huge win.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I like what you mentioned about boredom is a gift, right?
Yep,
that's what you say for the Can you expand that a bit more?
Yeah, I think what happens is, when we're young and we're not constantly active and doing the thing that is energizing us in that very moment, we start to think, well, I'm bored because I don't have anything that I want to do or anything that I have to do. I'm bored. Now, granted, you tell that same 9-year-old, well, if you're bored, I'll give you something that you have to do. They will find something to do because they don't want to do something that they didn't want to do or that you're telling them that they have to do. So, but the point is when we're young, we recognize boredom and we train ourselves to not be bored. And even as parents, we say, well, go do this, go do that. We try to give ideas. And the truth is, I want to teach my son something that I have only been relearning as I've gotten older, is that when I have a moment of boredom, now I have to schedule boredom. I can't be bored. You know what it's like, right? There's always, I always tell my team this, there is way more work to be done than we could ever possibly do. So we're not going to stress out about it. So we try to schedule and put a lot of time in our work calendar to just spend time planning and thinking and ideating and saying what if and having those moments. But as an adult, I'll say you need to schedule time where there's nothing to do, where you don't have to watch a TV show, you don't have to read a book, you don't have to answer an email, you don't have to communicate with the team, you don't have to do any of that stuff. You need some time to sit in silence. And the first time you do it, it is extremely uncomfortable because you'll start working. Honestly, you just start thinking about work and or whatever is important to you at the moment. But the more you do it, the more you start to chase threads and go down, chase threads that you would not otherwise chase and come up with ideas that you would not otherwise come up with. And all of a sudden you'll find there's a lot more interest in the world and things that you could be doing that you haven't even thought of. It hasn't even entered in the realm of possibility. And I think that's where true entrepreneurship and true innovation lies, is when we allow ourselves to have periods of time of boredom. So that's my take, is schedule boredom on your calendar, but read A Minute to Think and it'll give you some ideas. Nice.
Love it. Do you have any productivity tips that helped you achieve or accomplish something in work and life?
I have been working on a productivity kind of system that I've been sharing with my team, and I've shared it on the internet for a little while, called my elevation framework. And it's how I think about work. And it really falls down to 2 components. In anything that you do, you have to know yourself and you have to know your work. And if you know those two things, you can actually spend your best time doing your best work. And the way I break it down is this: in order to know yourself, you have to know, what are you good at? Like, what are the things that you just really excel at? And two, what gives you energy? Talking about at your best, right? Like working in your green zone and stuff like that. What gives you energy? What are the things that you do when you do them? You love it so much, you forget to eat, you forget to go to the bathroom, you forget to, check your email, because you're so entrenched in that. It gives you energy. You love it. And when you get to the end of your day, you're excited to wake up tomorrow and do it again, because it gives you so much energy. So what are you good at? And what are you, and what gives you energy? And when you can lock in on that and line that with your work, which is, what stuff is high impact, what stuff is pushing you towards your goals and your aspirations, what do you aspire to be and what do you aspire to do? And when you can align your work self and your individual, your ethos of who you are, and align those things, you can do, that's the work you should elevate. That's in your upper right quadrant. You should elevate that work as much as possible. The other work, all the other quadrants have meetings. So if it's high impact, but it's low elevation, low U, then you should probably delegate that work. It's still high impact, but delegate it, because it doesn't give you energy, but it gives somebody energy. Find out who it does give energy to, delegate it to them and let them do it. And then of course, at the very bottom left, if it doesn't give you energy, and it's not your best, it doesn't give you energy, that's not what you do the best, and it's low impact, it doesn't actually move the needle for anything that's important to you, eliminate it. Just take it off the list, cross it out, don't even give it another thought. The system is way more complicated than that, but I would say the simplest version of is find out what you're good at, find out what gives you energy, find out what work has the most impact. And when those things align, focus on that and devalue everything else as much as possible.
Nice. No, I love that elevation framework. So if you have any blog post or any video that you have already done on that, feel free to share that with us later on, and we'll put it in the show notes along with the books that you suggested. But I love the framework, because it's also like a hiking or climbing the right mountain, because that's one thing that I have seen hustlers or people who are grinding and focusing on the productivity, that we build all the different systems, tools, and have the most expensive journal and the apps and tools. And after putting and working and optimizing the routine and everything and working hard and all of that, and then you realize that I've been putting all my efforts on climbing a wrong mountain, it's not the where I really wanted to go. And that's one of the biggest productivity killer, because everything that we have put together, it's all just went into the garbage, right? So it's very important to align what's important and what is something that you get the most joy of doing. And when those two things are aligned, I think that's where you know that you are climbing the right mountain.
Yep, absolutely. 100% agree.
Yeah. Great. So, James, we are very close to bring this to the closer. But before we actually go, I wanted to ask one last question: is what is something interesting, exciting, or new that you're working in 2024 and that you would like to share?
Well, so we have this project that we started on last year called Quilby that I'm having a lot of fun. As you know, right, the internet has been taken over by AI, right? We've all been talking about AI and ChatGPT and all the different AI models and all the different companies that are offering chat AI solutions. And I love AI. I think it's very interesting. So we've been developing a lot of different solutions with AI and experimenting a lot. One of those things that we've started to develop and start working on, and we're getting ready to make some big changes and shifts on the website, but Quilby.com is our AI assistant that right now is very simply helps you write content. So but it's different than a lot of the other AI writing assistants, because what it tries to do is it tries to ask you for your take on a particular topic. And I usually explain it this way. When you use any AI system and you say, I want to write an article on procrastination, you're going to get the same answer from everybody. Procrastination is bad, it's evil, don't do it, and here's why, how you avoid it, and all of these things, right? But that's not my take on procrastination. Sometimes I think procrastination is sometimes a tool, and it actually helps you offload things that are not as important for things that are actually important. So when I talk about procrastination, if I go into Quilby asks me, what's your take on procrastination? And therefore it writes more content in line with my voice, my perspective, and my ideas, so that I'm the expert, not the AI. A lot of right now you use most AI tools, and AI is just going to give you what it would give you, the most commonly output content on that topic. But if you're willing to do that little extra work of giving it 100 to 300 words, just stream of consciousness, this is what I think about this topic, it gives you really unique content. But where we're headed with it, and this is what I think is most important, where we're headed with it is helping people find the inner expert inside of them. Everyone you talk to is an expert on something. There's something that they're passionate about. But I don't know about you. I feel like, you know, maybe I'm not an expert in business. Maybe I'm not an expert in leadership. Maybe I'm not an expert in productivity, all things that I claim to be an expert on in some way, shape, or form. But here's what I tell you. I don't know what I know. Meaning, if you just ask me to give me like your best business advice, well, that's broad. I don't know how to tell you what I know in that topic. But if you give me context and you ask me a very specific question, I probably got an answer. I probably have I have some experience and some wisdom to offer. It may be experiential, so you do what you want with it. It may be very much something you can apply and functional, but I have experience. There's knowledge that I have, but I don't know what I know unless I'm given context. And so we're building Quilby to be the thing that brings that expertise out of you and helps you take a topic that you do know something about and helps you pull it out and turn it into a course or a line of thinking, a topic that's fully developed. And so I'm really excited about this project to help more people be able to share and become coaches and teachers on things that they are passionate about, but they don't necessarily know how to go from zero to course, zero to a fully fleshed out topic. Quilby was going to help them do that. And so I'm really excited about it. So be looking for it. There's going to be a lot more about it this year.
Great. No, I love it. Especially I like your, because I was going to say that, yeah, there are a lot of different AI-based content writing tools. So how Quilby is different. And I think you said it right, that the perspective, you know, that we all have some level of unique perspective and understanding. And also like a book talk about a topic, but as a person, we read bunch of different books, bunch of different courses. So we collect multiple different perspective on productivity. So let's say the books I read, courses I've done, experiments I've done, collectively, it kind of like helped me to build my own perspective framework or a model, you know, on productivity, which might be different than yours and will be different than someone else. And it's very interesting. People like to, like, the topic of productivity is not boring, but when everyone talks about the same perspective, that's when it's like, oh, I already know this perspective. When you put on like a different perspective, that's all like, oh, okay, that's interesting perspective about the productivity I've never heard of or I never learned about. So that's great that you have embedded that into this tool. And a couple quick questions there. So I can see that I put this on the screen right now, so those who are watching this on a YouTube or a video, they can see the tool. So it says it's free. So how does the pricing and pricing works? Let's just quickly look into that. It's a monthly subscription, I believe.
Yeah, you can do monthly or annual, and pricing is probably going to be shifting and changing as we get more aligned with our market. Like, we started to write the base part. So if you think about it, the tool is from everyone from, it's for coaches, really, ultimately. It's like for people who want to coach people on a topic. But generally, coaches start from, I don't know how to build out a coaching program, so I just start writing about a topic. So it starts from bloggers to coaching or online education, and it builds into that. And so what it does right now is it helps you write articles. It's very simple. It's very basic what it does right now, but it helps you write articles. It can help you write them fast, but it also, I think more importantly, helps you write them accurately to your perspective, which is the most important part for us. We're not trying to take the human out of the experience. AI is supposed to be assisting the human to get the human out of them. And that's really the ultimate goal. But the pricing and some of the content is going to start to change as we start to more align with this idea of helping people develop a topic. So if you were to sit there and say, I want to share with the world my thoughts on productivity, for instance, Quilby will help you take it from productivity to what are the 4 or 5 spokes that are important to you on the topic, and then break that down into subtopics further and further and further, and then help you develop all of those ideas into kind of a mind map of the topic of productivity according to you. Because like you said, you've been shaped by your own experiences, by the different books that you've read, and all of that has come to give you a perspective. You have a take on it that's unique from everyone else's. And so the goal is to help you bring that out. So you'll be seeing more on that. But there is a free version, a trial version. So you can, if anybody wants to, they can just go in and try it out, even if you're not going to stick around with it for a while until we get further along that line, because maybe you don't looking to write articles. That's fine. But you can try it out and see how it works real quick. And that's available.
Yeah. Thanks, James. Thanks for sharing all that wisdom. And in fact, I learned a lot of different perspective on pricing that we talked about, WordPress plugin pricing, how to grow WordPress plugin business, and also your perspective on productivity. And just like, the past other episode, some of the questions, a lot of the questions actually in this podcast are same, but what we collect is a different perspective. So thanks for sharing that, James. I definitely got a lot of insights and inspirations as an entrepreneur in agency as well as in the product business. And I hope the people who are listening to this or watching this, they would also have learned some interesting insights on growing a business or just being more productive in life. Thanks for being on the show, James. Really appreciate your time, and you have been so generous sharing everything, and I appreciate that a lot.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love talking about all of this stuff and love catching up with you. So it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And we'll put all the different things that you talked about, the books, the blogs, and also some of the products and the businesses that we talked about in the show notes. So those who wants to go on a rabbit hole, you will have a lot of links in the show notes, and I'm sure you can check it out. And yeah, with that being said, let's wrap it up here. Thanks, Jim.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, so thank you for watching. Now, if you are interested and would like to try this out for yourself, we offer a 30-day free trial of our Pro plan where you can test all the Multicollab features. So for this, all you have to do is click on the link in the description below, and this will bring you to this page. And under the Pro heading, simply click on this button here. Now, simply enter a few details, and that's it. You're ready to enjoy the Pro version of Multicollab for free for 30 days. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.